Hello, my name is Natalie Prowse. I am a 17-year-old aspiring writer and podcaster from Vancouver Island, BC, and I'm here to tell you about my Capstone project, as well as the beautiful outcome of it. The whole year, I knew that I wanted to make a podcast for this project. I've been listening to them for about maybe over 8 years, and there's something that I am incredibly passionate about. I listen to them instead of music most of the time, and I fall asleep to them almost every single night. And after trying and failing to get this podcast off the ground early in the pandemic last year, I was ecstatic at the chance to try again and see if I can improve. Hopefully can improve. The question I approached this assignment with was, how can I sustain my creative stamina on a schedule? And to be completely honest, I still don't know. Regarding post-secondary, I am choosing to take the year off to work full-time and gain some independence before I attend the online creative writing and editing program through Simon Fraser University in fall of 2022. Once out of school, my goal is to either have or work for another podcast, ideally distanced, since I don't see myself being financially stable enough to move to a place where I could see a podcasting headquarters being located, such as Vancouver or Toronto. My goal to begin with in the project was to have 6 episodes of Threat of Jeopardy podcast, a fictional crime podcast that I created myself. They're all stories written by myself that take place in Cumberland, a town that I grew up in, lived there for the first 13 years of my life. True crime is something I'm incredibly interested in, but the idea of accidentally spreading misinformation about especially an unsolved case or a more recent case that's still in the news, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies, and all the researching and the cross-referencing I'd have to do to put out a product that I'm okay with sharing with people. It's intimidating, and it's just not something I'm up for right now. But I figured writing my own stories in a place that I know well, maybe it would take away some of that anxiety. So in January of 2020, I wrote the entire first episode, The Disappearance of Claire Walters, with the intention to create a podcast later that year once I had a microphone and a little more time on my hands. So as of June 2020, I recorded and edited my first ever episode, and I hated every second of it. The editing software I was using, I've just never used before, so it was a learning curve that didn't curve. It was in a straight line the whole time. There was no back button, so I deleted a place and then I'd have to record it, try to make it sound the same. And it just had, after 8 hours of editing, I had a terrible sounding product. So I gave up. I deleted it, I gave up. So, not my proudest moment, but oh well, can't change that now. But when the opportunity arose to try this again, I was so excited. And I set the very ambitious goal of writing, promoting, and recording 6 episodes of Threat of Jeopardy in order to test my creative limits and to stretch my brain a bit. But all in all, I realized that was too much for me. I started this project later in the year already, and writing a 3,500 word researched creative writing work in a week or less is incredibly daunting and not really something I thought of when I made this project up. And I did not complete this task this time around. I'm incredibly proud of what I've put out, and I'm so glad that I knew my limits and lessened my goal to allow myself the appropriate amount of time to complete 3.5 stories that I'm incredibly proud of and want to share with the world. So this end product, even though it's a bit different than what it was supposed to be, I still think, if I must say, it's incredibly cool. I uploaded and wrote 3 full episodes and had one in the works, as well as the blog where the stories are published if reading is more your jam. Each one is about 19 to 23 minutes long, and although I know that as the product of this assignment you will need to experience them, I kind of figured playing an episode would not be the most efficient way to have this project presented, especially in this video presentation. So down below I have linked the podcast Spotify page, the blog with all of them, including the unfinished potential episode 4. That is all linked down below, so you can go check it out at your own pace, rather than making this presentation half an hour long. The project really helped me broaden my writing skills and realm. I branched more into the scientific parts of forensics, which is not something I've necessarily looked into before, and I even utilized my community as a way of gathering info to make the stories a wee bit more realistic. I used a Facebook group called Cumberland Bulletin Board on 2 separate occasions for episodes 2 and the potential 4, and asking questions about the community at different times, whether before I was born or when I was just not quite old enough to remember. I asked about the area of Cumberland known as Coal Valley Estates, the newest developments in town at the top of Kendall Avenue, where at the time of the story, I needed to know what state the development was in. I did live there around the time, but I was 7 or 8 years old. I was too young to really remember, and for the love of, I could not find anything online. There was nothing. Coal Valley is a place in Pennsylvania, I believe, and that's all that was coming up. But lots of lovely people commented and helped me figure out how to make the timing and find the research for my story and make it work. I'm so grateful that I have that community to refer to. I am not someone that I would ever call a fast writer. I just kind of write when inspiration strikes. One time in grade 10 or 11 English, I took a creative writing project that was supposed to take 2 weeks and be 3 pages, and I came 2.5 months later with a 13-page queer slasher set in Seattle. And to this day, that is still my favorite piece of writing I've ever done. It was so much fun, and that's just what I do with writing. I'm not an incredibly efficient person because I like to go all out. It is something that I'm passionate about, and I know I can do well if I work hard at it. So I work hard at it, and something kind of crazy comes out of it, almost every time. So this project was something I knew would be a bit of a challenge for me, especially as a notorious procrastinator, and I must say, that was demonstrated in this project. And it did, but I'm not sure I did a wonderful job at really staying with the guidelines I gave myself. Not to make excuses, but at the time of starting this project, I was working 2 to 3 days a week at my job, as well as filing for my mom's business and looking after my brothers and also doing other schoolwork. So writing that much in a week when I had, so many days busy wasn't super realistic. And I'm glad to a degree that I wasn't so hard on myself. I don't think my mental health could have taken it at that point, to be completely honest. But I do wish I had kept myself to that schedule a bit more. I think that really would have been beneficial, but I'm also glad I didn't. Just depends on the outlook you have on it. I was very liberal with my time. I kind of told myself it was okay to miss a week because, I was busy. And very true. Additionally, I think I really pushed my limits with the research, especially on potential episode 4. I had to research such things as the effect of cyanide and the phases of decomposition post-mortem, which both physically and mentally pushed me. There were some very graphic images, especially when divulging into purge fluid and post-mortem bloating, but I also learned so much new stuff about cyanide and apple seeds, as well as decomposition. I felt like an older and more modern Flavia de Luce. I wish that I could have finished episode 4. It probably is my favorite, conceptually and written-wise, out of all of them, but I just couldn't figure out how to end it. Just couldn't couldn't get it done. The main thing I've gotten out of this project, and questions I'm coming away with, are what else could I do? Now that I have better software for producing scripted audio content, I now have all the freedom to create more. Whether that be more of Threat of Jeopardy or something new, I could really do it all if I wanted. My ultimate goal in life is to have a career with something to do with podcasting. So now that I know that I can, I hope and pray for my future self to carry through and do it. This is something I've genuinely enjoyed for years, and I know that it will be what brings me happiness in the future. Thank you so much for delving into this project with me. I'm incredibly proud of how I've grown as a writer and podcaster since beginning this, and the overall product is something I am so excited to share with others and potentially continue in the future. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.